Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining me. Do you have your coffee, your tea, or even your cocktail? Hey, these days, I think that the old excuse, it's 5 p.m. somewhere applies. It really feels like the world is completely upside down. If you are new, welcome to the Israel Brief. I am Rolene Marks. I bring you those top stories making headlines here in Israel every Monday to Thursday. And I do it with the aid of these guys, Lay of the Land. And more about Lay of the Land and where you can find us a little later in this broadcast. It is day 235. Let me repeat that. 235 since Israel's war with Hamas following the atrocities of the 7th of October. And remember that there are still 125 hostages being held captive in Gaza from 25 different states. And that is important because that is the subject of today's audience question, which comes from Bobby Swart a little later in the show. But let's take a look at those top stories, and we begin again in Rafah. And Israel's chief military prosecutor has said that he will open up an investigation into what happened in Rafah. Meanwhile, an Israeli official told the United States ABC channel that it is believed that shrapnel from the airstrike hit a fuel tank 100 meters away, and that set off a blaze. So just to reiterate for those in the media who do not wait for final investigations to conclude before running and jumping to conclusions, this was absolutely not a targeted strike at civilians. In fact, the IDF has made it clear that not only do they act within the laws of armed conflict, but do everything in their power to mitigate civilian casualties. The intended targets were 2 Hamas terrorists. The IDF used precision munitions with small warheads to target these 2 terrorists, and a preliminary conclusion has said that it is believed that this was shrapnel. Prime Minister Netanyahu has called it a tragic mistake. We don't want civilian casualties. We also can't forget that the numbers of civilian casualties comes from the Hamas-controlled health ministry. So there's also debate around that. And yes, we know the images are heart-wrenching. It breaks all of our hearts. And we call on the world to be a lot more circumspect instead of like France, South Africa, and various others rushing to condemn Israel. Take the approach the United States and the United Kingdom have said, which is that while the images are very upsetting, they call on Israel to embark on a full and transparent investigation, which is underway. Now, what is interesting is that video footage that's circulating on social media and was actually published in the JNS today is that you can see a secondary blast believed to come from a Hamas munitions depot or dump. So this is not as cut and dried as people think. And again, we really appeal to the media, to world leaders, to everybody out there. Please wait for this incident to be fully investigated and concluded. Lives depend on it. And South Africa, of course, being South Africa, called it a deplorable Israeli strike on a Gazan refugee center. South Africa can always be counted on Cyril Ramaphosa and his government to make these snap judgments. Today, Ireland, Spain and Norway formally recognized a state of Palestine. Ireland have said that in their estimation, this will keep the peace process alive. I don't know how they intend to do that because they have seriously angered the Israeli authorities. Ireland, Spain and Norway say that they have recognized a state within the borders of 1967 with East Jerusalem as its capital and under the authority of the Palestinian Authority. Ireland have said that they will dispatch an Irish ambassador to serve at an embassy in Ramallah. Meanwhile, the three countries have said that they will give a calm and firm response to Israel's very, very angry response to this. Meanwhile, earlier today, the Danish parliament voted to not recognize a Palestinian state, saying that the frameworks that you need in place for a state are just not there. So they will not be recognizing a state of Palestine, something that several other European countries have also agreed to. There is also pressure building on Prime Minister Rishi Sunak of the United Kingdom to also follow Ireland's example. Firefighters have been battling to put out blazes in Kiryat Shmona in the north of Israel, following barrages of rocket attacks fired from the south of Lebanon by Hezbollah terrorists into northern Israel. They set off at least 15 blazes, and fire crews from the area and surrounds were called in to put out the blazes, which they have been battling quite significantly. They also had to call in for more reinforcements to stop the fires from reaching civilian areas. It is amazing how the world is so focused on Rafah that they have forgotten that since the 8th of October there has been non-stop barrages of rockets, anti-tank missiles and drones that have been fired at communities in the north of Israel. There are many internally displaced people or internal refugees as a result, and we have had several civilians as well as soldiers who have been killed in these airstrikes. So I guess it's okay when fires and Israeli civilians are killed. That seems to be the message that we are receiving loud and clear from the media and the world. South African jury, the South African Zionist Federation and South African Jewish Board of Deputies have condemned South African President Cyril Ramaphosa's use of the genocidal chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. The river is the Jordan River, the sea is the Mediterranean River, both borders of the nation state of the Jewish people, the state of Israel. Now, what I do find incredibly ironic is that South Africa have taken Israel to the International Court of Justice, claiming the genocide of the Palestinian people, using genocidal language, or what they claim is genocidal language by Israeli authorities. However, the president, the head of state of South Africa, seems to find it totally okay to call for the genocide of the Israeli people. What spectacular hypocrisy and double standards. Now, he said this at a rally over the weekend. Tomorrow, South Africans will head to the polls. I know many of you are South African. You will be voting tomorrow. I know you will vote responsibly. And what I find quite astonishing from the footage is not only was there barely, if any, South African flags to be found at this ANC confab, but a massive Palestinian flag, almost the size of the entire football field, was unfurled. State capture by a phantom state? You guys tell me. Audience question time, and it comes from Bobby Swart. He says, and this is a very important question, so thank you, Bobby. He says, why are other countries not doing anything about the hostages? Why is President Biden not demanding Hamas immediately release the hostages? Why is there criticism of Israel for rescuing the hostages? It is a shame other countries do nothing. Bobby Swart, you hit the nail absolutely on the head. So let's take a look at the American response. And while the Americans have said that, yes, Hamas are the obstacle and the CIA is very much involved in the negotiations, we would like to see some stronger language and maybe some demands and some ultimatums put on Hamas by other countries. There are hostages being held from at least 25 countries of all faiths. We have Muslims, we have Hindus and Buddhists, Christians and Jews being held hostage. And countries seem to have forgotten. Take Colombia, for instance. Colombia has broken off diplomatic ties with Israel. They've got citizens being held hostage. We did have a call from 18 countries a couple of weeks ago calling for the release of the hostages, but nothing since then. So we are sick of the silence. End the silence now. Release those hostages now. Bobby Swart, thank you so much. If you guys want to ask a question, pop it in the comment section below and I'll do my best to answer them. In the meantime, check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook page is at Lottel Site. Our YouTube channel is the Israel Brief. Click on the red subscribe button right here, and we're on X at Lay of the Land 5. That's enough of me and my ranting for the day. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. I'm mad about you all, and I'll see you again tomorrow.